Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are finally here. And with them releasing, I have decided, why don't we do a hardcore Nuzlocke using only the Paldean Pokemon? First things first though, we've got to make ourselves Ginger. As we start our adventure, the first thing we manage to see is a bike hitting the water. Damn, that thing's gonna get rusty. It also turns out that we're a family of culture as we have a pet squirrel. Well, it's time for school. We've got to put on our backpack and hat, and we look like a dork. Brilliant. But even though we're dorks, we still get to pick our Pokemon. We do get the choice of 3 Pokemon, that being Quaxly. We then get the Grass Cat, Sprigatito. Or we can get the Fire Croc, which is Fuecoco. Which one to pick, eh? Who am I kidding? We're gonna pick the best one, and that is Fuecoco. Like, look, the little dude can even balance on our arm. How cool's that? Nimona then picks up Sprigatito. What a fool. We're absolutely gonna destroy her. Seems she couldn't wait for the destruction, so let's get right into the first battle of the new games. She's very rude and scratches up my Croc, but he returns fire with an Ember and does some insane damage. You must have been studying up. Smart move. Fire is strong against grass. Oh no, we've got another hop. Luckily, we don't have to endure that for much longer. She hits us with a tail whip, and that gives us the free KO using an Ember and taking the Sprigato out. Fuecoco is over the moon that we've managed to win the first battle, and with such style. Master Martinez Fuecoco surely weary from that last battle. Dude, are you kidding? I wiped her. I could have gone forever. Fuecoco, get up the stairs. See, that just proves he's the best. We then get to Poco Path and we get given Pokeballs by Nimona. Straight after that, we encounter a Lechonk. This is going to be the first encounter of Poco Path, so we catch it and give it the name George. Now, encounters in this game are different from previous Pokemon games. You can see every Pokemon while you're out in the wild. Therefore, I decided a good way of doing it, the first Paldean Pokemon that I run into is the one that I have to catch. It prevents any form of cherry picking, and I think it makes the Nuzlocke a lot fairer. I decide to go to the edge of this cliff just to see what it's like, because it's beautiful views in this game. During our adventure, we manage to see Koraidon, and he's getting bullied by a couple of Houndour. He's not standing for that and gives off a big roar, but he unintendedly managed to make us fall off our cliff.
Woo! Superhero landing!
Even though he did nearly kill me, I decide he looks a bit hungry, so I give him a sandwich, and this bugger nearly bites my hand off. He then stalls, and he starts to go Super Saiyan. Like, Jesus Christ, what was in that sandwich we gave him? I should have kept it for myself. The game then does the annoying trope of having him move really slowly, and anytime we get close, it forces us to walk instead of being able to run right past him. We then run into a Houndoom, and this thing must really want to battle, so let's go. Level 40? Jesus Christ, we need to run from this thing. Oh no. Well, that's it. Nuzlocke over. He goes for a crunch. However, Koraidon thinks, and he decides he's having none of that. He comes over and he saves us. However, after that, the Houndoom wasn't best pleased. He gives off a roar and he calls for a lot of backup. I really don't know how we're going to get out of this. Luckily for me, I didn't need to do much thinking, as Koraidon is coming to save the day yet again. Phew, he got us out of there. We then get challenged to a battle by Arvin. He sends out a Squovert. My Ember knocks him a little under a half as he hits me with a bite, but it only does 5 damage. I Ember again, knocking him in range of being taken out, but he must have known he was defeated, as all he did was use Tail Whip. And that means his fate is sealed. We take him out on the next turn and win the battle. It turns out he was Koraidon's keeper, and he gives us the Pokeball for him, so we now finally have a legendary. But we can't use him in battle. That kinda sucks. Hey, let's battle. How about nope? In South Province, Area 1, we run into a Fidough. We do end up catching him, and we give him the name Crypto. I decided to battle some trainers, and this lovely bloke here gives me a TM because I beat them all. Oh, look at this little guy. I'm just going to steal a coin off him real quick. I then managed to run into something new, and that is a TM machine. It allows you to create TMs just by getting the souls of innocent victim Pokemon. What What a lovely game this is. Before we progress any further, we have another Ramona fight. She leads with a scratch, which doesn't do much damage, the same as last time, as I nearly take her out with an ember. She then opts to switch to a tail whip, but it's far too late. All I need to do is use one more blast of fire, and Sprigato is out of here. After this, she sends out a Paw Me, and then she has the nerve to go on and terrestrialize this thing. Like, we haven't even had chance to get that ability ourselves, and she's using it. We're literally a new trainer. This is a bit unfair, dude. Her powered up Thundershock manages to do some pretty incredible damage to us. And on top of that, she paralyzes me. Thankfully, we do manage to hit through it, and our Ember even manages to crit. The next turn, obviously, she's faster than us, hits us with the Thundershock, and it knocks us down to just 8 HP. But that was a mistake on her part, as that knocks our Ember into Blaze, meaning we easily take her out. How'd you like that, Ramona? Even with your cheating, we managed to blast right on through you. We then run into Team Star, and they are bullying some guy that looks like Todoroki out of My Hero. Bullying is obviously nothing we can stand by, so we have to quickly take them down. Before we even have chance to battle the second one, Nimona comes over, and she gives us the ability to terrestrialize. But Team Star aren't exactly scary, so I decide I'm just not going to use it in this battle. Next up on our epic adventure, I get to attend class. Jesus Christ, I want to be a Pokemon master, not a student. Nimona then airdrops us the location of every single gym of the region. Now, you can battle these in any order, but the levels don't change regardless, so I'm going to be going in order of level just to make it nice and easy for me. After this, we're introduced to the best professor of this generation, being the Professor Sada. She tells us she was Koraidon's original owner, and she asks us to look after it. I mean, look how adorable he is. I can't say no to that. After that, we can finally leave school. Yeah, boy. It's for a treasure hunt, but it's not exactly Easter, so we're not looking for eggs. Koraidon doubles up as a vroom vroom machine, so we can get going in style. We head on to South Province Area 3, where we run into a Knackley. He's feisty and nearly takes us out with a rock throw, but we can just bring on in George. I then catch him, and I'm able to give him the name Toad. In South Province Area 2, we run into a Smoliv. We catch it and give it the name Olive Oil. We can then start the first gym challenge, and the first gym challenge involves playing football with massive olives. Yep, I know, it's a weird start to the gyms, but it is what it is. That being said, that does mean we can now take on the first gym, and it's gonna be a bug-type gym. The gym leader of which is called Katie. To me, the first gym seems like more than fitting enough a place to finally use our Terra Orb and terrestrialize our Fuecoco for the first time. And with that little power boost to our Ember, her Nimble did not stand a slight chance of surviving. Her Tarantula stood the exact same amount of chance, which is 0. We then have her last Pokemon, Teddiursa, and she decides that's not buggy enough for her, so she terrestrializes it into a bug type, therefore we can take it on. We manage to hit it with an Ember, and we don't actually take it out. First Pokemon to survive a hit from us. It then hits us with a Fury Swipes, and it actually does some pretty incredible damage. It hits 3 times and knocks us just over half. But he made a mistake. He should have hit 5, critting a couple of them, because the next turn we can take him out with an Ember and shatter his crystals. And she was that happy with our victory, she wanted a picture to commemorate it. I then spot a Clorf on a wall, but we can't really do much, so I just leave it. Snappy can then evolve into a Crocodile, and then we can start the second gym challenge, which is hide and seek with some Flora. They aren't what you would call great at hiding though, like just look at these 3. And beating that brings us into the next gym battle, which is Brassius, the grass type gym leader. His Petalil is obviously gonna go down to a terrestrialized boosted Ember. Smoliv is just a new generation Petalil, so obviously that thing doesn't stand a chance either. After this, he sends out a Sudowoodo. Usually this would be a tough matchup for a fire type, but he terrestrializes into a grass, sealing his fate. Or maybe not, my Ember doesn't actually manage to take him out. He uses a Trailblaze, which is a grass move and doesn't do much damage, but he has raised his speed, so maybe he still stands a chance. Now he's faster, he hits us with a rock throw. But it's fine, we just held on and we can retaliate with an Ember, finishing off the Sudowoodo. Let's be really honest though, are we that surprised when I pick the fire starter that I win against the grass gym leader? We then meet an Elite Four member, and it turns out he's one of our teachers. Maybe skipping class wasn't the best idea, because when we get to that Elite Four, I imagine he's going to want to take it out on us. We then get to East Province Area 1. Now, I'm going to say something here. I did get a lot more encounters than this video is going to show. There are a lot of encounters in this run, and that just means that I'm not going to use them all, as I'm not going to need every single one for some battles. We catch it in a floating Pokeball and give it the name Tweety. Any of you guys figured out the naming theme yet? We run into a Tauros in East Province Area 2. We yawned to make it a bit sleepy and easier to catch. We then ember and we burn it. That makes our yawn pointless. I fail to catch it and he gets off a double kick. Fortunately, I just managed to survive it. This is too good an encounter and I don't want to lose it. Therefore, I switch out to bring in Tweety because I don't want my Schnappy to die. Unfortunately, I get too low before I've caught it, so I have to switch out yet again. This time, I choose to bring in Crypto as he's a fairy type. Unfortunately for Crypto, he does get a headbutt off and it does manage to take us out before we catch it. It was your first battle, and I'm so sorry this happened, Crypto. You deserve better, but thank you. Rest in peace, my little buddy. We do end up catching it on the next ball, but we lost a team member, and it's all because we got a burn off when we should have been sleeping. We then have another Nemona battle. That's 3 pretty quickly in concession. She really is the new hop. Schnappy is obviously a terrible matchup for this, so I decide to bring in Ben. And I'll tell you what, Ben, even though you took a member of my team out, I'm glad of you here as you tank that rock throw like a champ. I use a workup in order to get my attack boosted. In the meantime, he does nothing with a rock throw. After getting off my 3rd workup, I decide to go for double tick and finally get rid of this pesky little dog. Her Permie can do nothing but go down. She gets scared, so terrestrializes her Florigato. And then she hits me pretty heavily with the magical leaf. Like, it does a lot of damage thanks to the terrestrialization. And our returning headbutt doesn't manage to take her out. I can't risk a hitting with a crit here, so I decide to switch out. And the Pokemon I bring out is Schnappy, but she ends up using a Hone Claws instead. It's not going to help her out one bit, though. I easily shrug off the bite and then hit her back with a terrestrialized ember. She's on less than half, so obviously that takes it out. We then have the gym challenge, which is basically just a Pokemon version of Where's Waldo? Be honest, can you find Waldo in this photo? I did actually nearly lose 3 Pokemon in these gym fights as well. If there had been a 3rd, I guarantee I'd have lost someone. I'm not quite ready to face on the gym leader, so I go to East Province Area 3 and run into a Bramblin. I end up catching him and giving him the name Casper. George then evolves into an Oikalone, and Toad evolves into a slightly deformed Minecraft pig. Wow. And with that, we are now ready to face Iona. George hits a pretty heavy headbutt while managing to shrug off a pathetic spark. That means the very next turn we do one more and we take it out. We then have her belly bolt, but I don't want to power it up by using its ability. Therefore, I switch into Casper. The spark doesn't really do too much. I am then free to just switch right on back into George, and the reason for that is his ability Lingering Aroma. It means, because I've been physically hit by the spark, I will actually give him my ability so he won't get powered up if I hit him. I can then hit him with a dig, but it does far less damage than I was expecting. Thankfully, the sparks he's using aren't really touching me too much. I then get off a headbutt, and it actually makes him flinch so I don't take that small damage. This means I'm able to get off another dig, and this time it's more than enough to get rid of him. We then have her Luxio. I mudshot it, which lowers its accuracy and does some pretty decent damage, but it does hit me with a spark and nearly takes me out. I'm not confident George can take him out on the next turn, therefore I decide it's time to bring in Schnappy. Unfortunately for me, though, Schnappy does get paralyzed by the spark on coming in. He manages to fight on through it and get a yawn off, though. Knowing he's gonna fall asleep, I decide the best course of action is to bring in Olive Oil. Although he does take some decent damage from Spark, I know I'm not gonna get hit the next turn. During his nap, Olive Oil can get off a growth. But the next turn when I was gonna Mega Drain, he wakes up, bites me, and then on top of that, I get flinched. That stacking bad luck on all of them means I can no longer carry out my plan, so I need to do the next best thing, and that's bring in Ben because he's gonna take no damage from her attacks. Ben double kicks, but it's not quite enough to take it out, and then it retaliates with a spark, which is fantastic because it crits. I've literally just got a roller coaster of bad luck during this fight. I take it down on the next turn, but I'm a lot less healthy than I was expecting to be. Her last Pokemon is a terrestrialized Pokemon, and that's going to be Miss Magius, becoming the electric type. It uses a Confuse Ray, which is far from ideal. But my luck has turned a table. I managed to get through and hit the double kick, but it doesn't do too much damage. Because of that, I decided it's finally time to terrestrialize, and I'll tell you what, I should have done this earlier. The Luxio would have gone down, and this thing would be on less than half health now. It hits me with a very heavy hex that nearly takes me out, but I break through my confusion, and I managed to get a double kick off. Unfortunately, though, because I didn't terrestrialize last turn, it does just survive on a slither. However, now I know that he's going to be using Hex, I can safely switch into Toad. And the reason I can do that is Toad has an ability called Purifying Soul, and that move halves the damage of Ghost-type moves. She then goes for a Confuse Ray, and I'll tell you what, my bad luck returned as I managed to hit myself. Well, I suppose it was actually right. I did 3 attacks, 1 of them I hit myself. It's pretty reasonable. On the next turn, she ends up using a charge beam, and it does some pretty severe damage. I'm on just 13 health when she hits me. Toad is having none of this, though. He snaps out of his confusion, and he smacks her down to the ground, smashing that little light bulb on her head and taking her out. And that victory sends Iona's head proper spinning. Olive Oil did actually evolve into a Dolive, but I forgot to record, so apologies. We then meet the chairwoman of the league, whatever that job is. I didn't know there was a chair in the league regardless. We then managed to get to West Province Area 1, and the first Pokemon we run into is a Mankey. Now you're probably saying, hold on, this is Gen 1. Wait for it. We end up catching him, and we give him the name Gumball. Team Star are then in my way, but they don't even give me the option to battle them. Like, come on guys, I'm willing to take you down. We then have the challenge of battling 30 Pokemon, and I'll tell you what, I actually nearly lose my Mankey here. Look how low his health is. The Team Star leader then comes blazing out in his vehicle, and he wants to challenge us to a battle. My lead Ben uses Work Up as I want to raise his attack, and his first Pokemon is Pawniard. This thing can't do much to us. Except the fact it can. It knows Aerial Ace, and that does some pretty decent damage to us. I can't stand for that, so I take it down with a double kick. And his next Pokemon is only the bloody car itself. Not only that, it knows Intimidate, ruining my workup. It ends up using Metal Sound on us, which is going to ruin my defenses. And then my Terrestrialized double kick manages to do just about half damage to him. With my lower defenses, he can go for a Swift and do some okay damage, but that is not going to stop me from getting off my double kick. With that, the Reveroom is out of commission, and he's going to need to get a mechanic out to help him. My bike's bigger than yours. When we get to the next gym, Kofu just goes running right off. His assistant then gives us, a stranger and child, his wallet. And I'll tell you what, it's a pretty adorable wallet, isn't it? In the Asado Desert, the first Pokemon we find is a Flittle. I do manage to catch it, and we give it the name Roadrunner. When I get into the West Province Area 2, I manage to run into a Mastiff. I catch it, and we give it the name Cerberus. I tried to give him his wallet, but Gym Trainer Hugo wouldn't let me, so let's take him down. His first Pokemon, Floatzel, hits me with a water gun for some pretty major damage, but my double kick does about the same as him. He hits me with a water gun again on the next turn, knocking me low, but his speed is an issue. Therefore, I use a Scary Face to slow him right down. After that, I decide we can't keep him in, so it's time to switch into Olive Oil. But the Aqua Jet does a lot more damage than I was expecting. Turns out he's still faster than us, so he hits us with a bite, but it's fine. I'm Mega Drain, and I've got the big root on, so I actually get more health back than I normally would. Due to his speed being so immense, he does get another bite off, and I can get a Mega Drain off, but I only get a sliver of health back since he was in the red. His next Pokemon, Clauncher, uses Smackdown and hits me some pretty damage, but my Mega Drain heals back more than he could ever imagined of doing. Obviously, the next turn, we use one more Mega Drain, and the Clauncher is right on out of here. Kofu then needs to step in as he knows I'm going to beat all his trainers. He then gives us 50 grand in order to do his gym challenge. And I win it at just 35 grand, meaning I get to pocket the extra 15. It is quite weird though, his gym test was to see how good a kid's negotiation skills are. Before the gym though, Cerberus wants to evolve, so he turns himself into a Mabostiff. The time for negotiation is over though, we can finally take on Kofu. Now, you might be thinking, you started with Schnappy, a fire type? You're an idiot, it's a water gym. Not really, I can get off a yawn. After that, I decide to switch out into Olive Oil, but I do get a bit unlucky. He decided to use Slash instead of a water move, so I take more damage than I was expecting. While he's sleeping, I am able to get off a Growth, and he must have got to sleep late last night as he keeps on snoozing, allowing us to get another. I was then expecting him to wake up on this next turn, but he stays asleep, and I went for a Mega Drain. Now, this Mega Drain doesn't quite take him out, so this was a bit of a mistake. I should have used a Growth instead. He then manages to get off a Pluck, and Pluck does some pretty immense damage to us. However, our Mega Drain manages to give us a bit of health back, but not as much as I'd have liked because he was on lower health. His Wug Trio gets off a Headbutt, which does some pretty immense damage to me, but I use a Mega Drain, not only taking him out, but getting back to nearly full health. All I can say is thank you very much for the heal, mate. His last Pokemon is the beast that is Crabominable, but since we've terrestrialized, he wants to join us, so he does that and makes it a water type. He hits us with a Rock Smash, which does some incredible damage and lowers our defense. I retaliate with a Seed Bomb, a pretty powerful move, but I don't quite take him out. Obviously, with me being slower, I cannot afford to stay in. Therefore, I bring in Ben. Ben doesn't take too much damage from the Rock Smash, but he does get a lower defense. However, he is faster. He can use Double Kick and take him out. Oh, come on, he's on a sliver. He then retaliates by using a Crab Hammer against us, and I do not stand a chance here. He wipes me out completely. We lost Ben. Although you would say it's kind of fitting because of what he did. He did help us in a few fights. And for that, we must thank him, as he was also the reason we could get through this gym. Rest in peace, buddy. Roadrunner does then come out, and he can use a quick attack because he's on a slither. I do get a crit, but obviously that didn't matter. Look at this dude. He's just laughing when he's literally just killed a Pokemon. Nimona then says she wants to challenge us to a battle, but she can't quite yet. Now, I think she was just a bit scared that we were going to annihilate her yet again. We then have to find what a secret menu item is for the gym challenge. Like, seriously, I love ordering food, don't get me wrong, but doing it for a challenge? That's nothing. My Mankey then manages to evolve into a Primeape. Snappy then decides he doesn't want to be left out, so he decides to evolve as well, turning into a Skeleridge. Olive Oil must think it's an evolution event as she evolves into Arbelova. I'll tell you what though, it must be some sort of event because Roadrunner decides she wants to evolve as well and she becomes an Espathra. Gumball decides he doesn't want to be shown up, therefore he finally evolves into his last form and that's going to be Annihilate. Whew, 5 evolutions in a row, that's an awful lot. Now we can finally take on the gym leader being Larry. I start off with a low kick against this Kamola and it does some pretty decent damage. He then goes for a Yawn, but my Vital Spirit activates and it doesn't affect me. He then unfortunately manages to get a Sucker Punch off, but it doesn't do much damage. Therefore, I can use a low kick and the Kamola is out of here. I then kick his to Dunsparce and it knocks him less than half, but unfortunately for me, he manages to paralyze me by using Glare. He then uses a Drill Run and does some pretty good damage thanks to him critting. However, it wasn't enough to save him. I break through my paralysis and the Dunsparce is out of here. His Staraptor will have a flying type move, so it's not safe for me to stop him. Therefore, I decide it's best to bring in the old Snappy. He terrestrializes and manages to hit me with an Aerial Ace thanks to my switching. Since it's not doing too much damage, I let him hit me again and I go for a Yawn as it gets him to sleep, and if anything goes wrong, I've got an out. Now Staraptor's incredibly powerful and I don't want to take chances, therefore I decide it's time for me to terrestrialize myself. The Aerial Ace does knock me into being knocked out, however, my Torch Song manages to do some incredible damage. I knock him into the red and he falls asleep this turn. With him being guaranteed in sleep, I can safely go for another move. Obviously, I'm going to use another Torch Song, and that is more than enough to take him out. Larry looks quite disappointed we beat him, and I've got to be honest, I do feel bad for the guy here. However, it's not all plain sailing, as right after this fight, we do have a Nemona battle, and this Nemona battle you can't say no to. You have to go and do it straight away after the gym fight. My lead Gumball is a pretty good one. Well, at least he would be if he didn't flinch. He does get bit again, but this time he manages to break through and nearly takes a Lycanroc out with a low kick. This next turn follows the same thing, except this time we do take the Lycanroc out. We then have her Gumi, but I hit a critical hit cross chop, therefore this thing gave us no trouble whatsoever. Her Pormo goes for Thunder Wave. This obviously is going to paralyze me, and I'll be honest, I thought this thing was going to go for Spark, so I opted to use Counter, meaning I fail my move. The next turn, it does go for that Spark I was expecting, but now I'm stuck in paralysis. He knocks me low on the next turn, and on top of that, my cross chop misses. The paralysis and flinch really did matter here. I obviously can't keep Gumball in because otherwise he'll go down. Therefore, I decide to bring in Olive Oil as he resists the electric attacks. But even though he resists the attacks, he doesn't resist the paralysis, and that's exactly what's happened to me. Thankfully, he has hit me. Therefore, I get the move Seed Sower off. That's my ability. Basically, if I'm hit, I bring up a grass terrain. He then gets an arm thrust off and it hits 5 times. Like seriously, what is my luck inside this battle? It's ridiculous at this point. However, a grass terrain boosted energy ball is thankfully enough to take this bugger out. Her last Pokemon is the Meowscarada. Now, I'm expecting it to use a dark move because it's dark type, and it's not going to use a grass move against a grass Pokemon, right? Well, I was right indeed, as she uses a slash and it does almost no damage to us, plus we actually heal up a bit thanks to the grass terrain. However, she then uses a flower trick on the next turn, and I'll tell you what, this move is pretty powerful, especially when boosted by the terrestrializing. It crits me and kills me. That's the second Pokemon to die the very first battle I'm using it. This better not become a trend. That gives us a free switch into Snappy, and her flower trick does a lot more damage than I was expecting. It's a grass move, and I know it does crit every time, but seriously, this does some major damage. And on top of that, my Terrestrialize boosted Torch Song, which is super effective, leaves her on a slither. Obviously, because I know her move's guaranteed to hit, I know exactly how much damage I'm going to take. Therefore, it's safe for me to use a Torch Song, and we take the bugger out. Traveling a bit further, we make it to Glacido Mountain, where we run into a Cyclozar. We do manage to catch it, and we give it the name Blue Eyes. We then have a few double battles to do, but we've got the Wombo combo that is Snappy and Blue Eyes, so we sail through it incredibly easily, especially because we get healed between each battle. Toad then decides he finally wants to evolve and becomes a Gargankel. And with that, we've got a double battle gym battle being against the ghost leader that is Rhyme. Mimikyu gets off a Shadow Sneak, which does pitiful damage to Toad, as Banette manages to Sucker Punch our Snappy. I got Snappy to use a Torch Song against the Banette, it knocks it lower than half, and we get a special attack bonus. Toad can then use Salt Cure against the Mimikyu, which breaks its disguise and means it's going to take damage every turn. Her Pokemon decide to use the same moves as last time, however, this time they switch the targets. I was expecting the Sucker Punch to be in Snappy, so I used Yawn, and then I can smack down the Banette, smacking it under the ground and back into the grave. Rhyme's audience obviously cheer for that, and they give both my Pokemon a well-deserved attack boost. Mimikyu Shadow Sneaks into my Snappy, knocking him into the red, and then I make Snappy use a Torch Song. This not only takes down the graveyard, it gives us a well-needed special attack boost. Toad then uses a Smackdown into Mimikyu, which knocks it just in range of being taken out by the Salt Cure. She then sends out Toxtricity, and just in case she ends up going for him, I decide to bring in Olive Oil instead of Snappy. Rhyme must realize she's losing as she brings forth the spirit of a load of dogs in order to give her some power. She then obviously needs to make Toxtricity into a ghost type, because otherwise she wouldn't be a ghost type gym leader now, would she? It goes for a Hex, but obviously my normal type foils that plan. Toad hits it with a Salt Cure. My idea here is the residual damage will add up even if my plan fails. And at this point, her audience have obviously turned on me as they give her a boost to every single stat that exists in the game of Pokemon. However, it turns out the audience did all of that for naught, as we can double up on her using a Smackdown and an Energy Ball, and we wipe her right on out of here. That's 6 badges down, and now we're 3/4 of the way through the game. Ooh, look how shiny he is. That's adorable. We then make our way to Alphanoda Cavern, and we run into a Dunsparce. We end up catching him with an Ultra Ball, and we give him the name Jim. We make it to South Area 6, and we manage to run into a Lock 6. We manage to make the little blighter ours, and we call him Flick. We then run into yet another unexpected Ramona battle. Like, seriously, you can tell this was a mistake because I led with Flick against her Lycanroc. Obviously, I'm not going to leave a bug type in against a Lycanroc, therefore I switch into Olive Oil. However, I do make a slight mistake here. I probably could have attacked as he just sand attacks me. With him being faster, he does manage to get off another sand attack. However, it doesn't stop me from using my Energy Ball and wiping him on out of here. With me only knowing grass moves, I can't really do much, therefore I decide to switch into Snappy. However, Snappy does take a pretty heavy Dragon Pulse from her Sliggoo. I use a Torch Song in order to get my special attack up, but she hits me with yet another Dragon Pulse and knocks me to about half health. The special attack boost, I was expecting to let a Shadow Ball take it out, but unfortunately it holds on, and that means it gets a chance to use yet another Dragon Pulse and knocking me to almost red. The next turn, however, obviously he's not going to be as lucky, so we can finish it off. She then sends out her Pawmot. Now, I'm not going to be able to face this thing. It would probably one-shot me from this point, so I bring in Toad. And I'm thankful I did, because she uses a Thunder Wave against me, which doesn't affect me thanks to my Purifying Salt ability. I then get knocked for pretty minimal damage with a Spark as I get off a Stealth Rocks. Now that the stealth rocks are set up, I decide to bring in Blue Eyes. Now the idea with Blue Eyes is I was gonna set up with him as he knows shift gear. However, on coming in, I get hit with a spark, and obviously my luck is terrible, so that spark paralyzes me. I decide to try it anyway, just in case poor me doesn't quite manage to get me stuck in paralysis and I can at least get past him. But I decided the damage she was doing was a bit much, so I decided to use Shed Tail. This uses half my health and creates a substitute. It also means the Pokemon that I'm going to be bringing in will be substituted, therefore I don't stand a chance of getting hit and I'm probably not getting paralyzed. The Pokemon I chose to bring in was Gumball. I do then get somewhat lucky and dodge the Thunder Wave, and that allows me to get off a Shadow Punch for free. The next turn, I'm not as lucky as she manages to hit me with the Thunder Wave, and making up for that last turn, I also get stuck in paralysis. She hits me for minimal damage with a spark as I get paralyzed yet again. The next turn, I do break through, but he survives on a Sliver, and then I hit him once more and manage to take him out, but I'm on really low health at this point. Obviously, being on low health, I can't stay in, so Gumball gets replaced with Flick because the Masquerada will do some damage. The Flower Trick on the switch in, though, does some serious damage. It knocks me down to just 65 health. I decide if she's going to terrestrialize, then so am I. I become the Bug type solely on Flick. The Flower Trick just doesn't quite do enough to take me out, and it leaves me on 12 HP. Luckily, I did survive, so I can hit back with the Lunge. It's boosted by my terrestrialization, and on top of the Stealth Rock's damage, it takes her out. That really was a close one. That could have easily ended up in one of my Pokemon being taken down. We then have the Emotional Spectrum test. Now, this is just a dance contest, basically. Obviously, me and Flick are going to annihilate it. Thankfully, we get through that, and we are led on to the Psychic Gym Leader, that one being Tulip. I decide it's time to go for a shift gear, as she just manages to make her Girafarig, or however the bloody hell you pronounce that, use a Reflect. I then use yet another shift gear, but this time she actually does attack me. She uses a Zen Headbutt and it does some pretty good damage, knocking me to just over half health. And then this is where I feel I make a slight mistake. Now, I was under the impression Shed Tail is incredibly overpowered. I actually thought it transferred the stat boost as well as giving you the substitute. Doesn't actually do that, so I realistically should have just attacked. Either way, Flick is terrestrializally boosted and uses Lunge to do some pretty good damage as she uses Crunch. Obviously, that's not going to do much damage to me, though. I can then use another Lunge, and this one manages to take the guy out. Even though the Reflector's worn off, the Gardevoir still manages to survive a Lunge. Not really sure how, but now that I've terrestrialized, I've lost my Dark type, and she can hit me with a Psychic, which does some pretty good damage as it breaks my substitute. Now we are faster than it, so obviously next turn it doesn't stand a chance, and it goes downtown. Her Espathra does hit a Psychic, and it hits me quite hard, knocking me down to 55 health. Thankfully, though, this thing isn't as bulky as the Gardevoir, so I can just take it down in one shot. Last up is her Florges, but she might as well have not bothered as we take it down in one shot. It doesn't even manage to get a move off on us. And look at his roar from that victory. Also, apparently sentient dolls are good enough to be in the Elite Four in this game. And the final gym test that we're going to have to do in this game is using our Koraidon as a sledge. Yeehaw! Now we've done that, we've got the final gym battle. Now the last gym is an ice gym, so obviously we're going to decide to leave with our boy Snappy. Torch Song is 4 times effective, so obviously the Frostmoth gets obliterated. Beartick's a bit bulkier, but we got the special attack boost on the last one, therefore we take him down just as easy. Setitan holds on just enough to manage to hit me with a liquidation, doing pretty incredible damage. That does mean on the next turn we need to get revenge since he's the first one to hit us, so we take him down with one more Torch Song. And last up, we have her Altaria. It hits me with a Hurricane, and not only does she get the crit, she manages to get the Confusion proc as well. Although that is some pretty damn dirty luck, which is sort of the theme of this run, I do manage to get a Flamethrower off, and since her Altaria terrestrialized into an Ice type, obviously that means it meets its demise. That is it done, though. That means we've got all 8 gym badges down, so the only thing left is going to be the Elite Four. They even take a nice pretty photo and give it to us to show us the place we're gonna destroy. I then get to the Tag It Thick Tree, and my encounter there, of all things, is a Bug Terror Graphii. I catch it and I give it the name Julian. We then have quite a bit of grinding before we're ready to face the Elite Four. Therefore, the first thing that I'm going to do is absolutely annihilate some kid. I also decide it's time to knock some of these rust buckets to the scrapyard. All that done though, and now it is time. It is time for us to finally face the Pokemon League. But first, they require us to do a quiz. Do you like Pokemon? That's a tough one. And with the quiz pass, let's not hold on any longer. Let's go and face the first Elite Four member, being Rika. I decide to start out by switching out Snappy and bringing in Olive Oil because we're against a Wish Cache. She decides just to go for a Muddy Water, but I take barely any damage from this. It also sets up my Seed Sower, so I take even less damage as I heal some back. I then decide to Protect to see what she'll do, and it's a good thing I did as she goes for Blizzard. Olive Oil will take a Blizzard quite badly, so I decide just to bring in Snappy, and that'll waste one of the PP of the Blizzard. I then bring Olive Oil back out again because I know he's going to go for a Muddy Water, and that'll hit me quite heavily. Protect wastes another one of her PP, and then we can use our last switch out, and we can bring in Snappy to use the last of the Blizzards. Obviously, the best Pokemon for us to be taking down the ground types is going to be our Olive Oil. Therefore, we bring it in again. He does get hit with a Muddy Water, but it doesn't manage to do anything to us. I then decide to switch out. I want to bring in Cyclizar, and he does get hit with a Muddy Water, but it doesn't do much damage to him. And with Blue Eyes, I decide to use a Shed Tail because this is going to set up a substitute. Now, substitute for my Olive Oil is brilliant because we can't have much damage done, so it should stay up. Wish Cache tries to use an Earth Power, but it doesn't break through the sub, and I use a Growth so I can raise my attacks. I do manage to get another one off, but now my sub has faded. On this turn, I get the Future Sight attack, and it crits me, but it does set off my Seed Sower again. Wish Cache uses another Future Sight, but it's a shame he couldn't see the future of what was going to happen to him. I'm going to use a Mega Drain, get all my health back, and take him out right in the same turn. She then sends out Camerupt, and this thing is quite dangerous, but thankfully, I'm double boosted and my Grass Terrain, so I take it out in one. Donphan unfortunately is faster and does manage to get a Poison Jab off. But I do manage here with an Energy Ball. However, it doesn't really matter as this Pokemon has Sturdy, so just holds on. The Future Sight finally comes round and it hits us, but we do both manage to get a touch of health back by using the Grass Terrain. I then Protect because this is the last turn of Grass Terrain. However, it will heal us before it disappears. That Slither of Health means we can survive a Poison Jab, but we do get poisoned by it, and this means that we're pretty screwed. However, before that, we get a Mega Drain off, and the Donphan gives us just a sliver of health back as we take it out with the Mega Drain. Grass Terrain gives us some health, but Poison doth take that away. Not an Olive Oil to die, I decide to bring in Gumball. Now, Gumball is pretty safe because Dugtrio went for Sucker Punch. Thankfully, I didn't attack with him, so it doesn't hit me. Now, I was expecting another Sucker Punch, therefore I decide to bring him back and send in Snappy. This way we can't get affected by it, but he just uses Sandstorm instead. He then uses Earthquake against me, which does far less than I was expecting it to do, but it does mean I get the opportunity to use a Yawn. I get Earthquaked again, but I do manage to miss my Shadow Ball. At least he falls asleep these turns. With him asleep, I do get a free switch in back to bring Gumball. Gumball unfortunately misses his Stomping Tantrum, but at least this was the last turn of the Sandstorm. Dugtrio then wakes up and he gets off yet another Sandstorm. But this turn I do manage to hit him and I send all three heads 6 feet under. Next up is his Clodsire, but it just uses Protect on that first turn, meaning I can't touch it. The next turn I do about a quarter damage with Stomping Tantrum, and he ends up using an Earthquake, but it hits me quite lightly. He ends up protecting again. He must be trying to get some Sandstorm chip. I then Shadow Punch as he hits me pretty heavily with an Earthquake because I go into the red, but thankfully this was the last turn of Sandstorm. However, even though I'm in the red, I'm faster than him, so I can just use Outrage and it's guaranteed to KO. And with that, we managed to get through Deathless on the first Elite Four battle. The next Elite Four member is the Steel Trainer, being Poppy. It's not exactly the one you'd expect to be the Steel type, is it? Snappy leads with a Torch Song. Not only does this raise its special attack, it's super effective and nearly knocks him out. He just spends the turn using Stealth Rock, so it's basically a free turn for us. When the next turn comes along, I can just use another Torch Song. With him being on a Slither, we're guaranteed to take him out, and it's an extra special attack boost. Bronzong goes down far too fast for him to be able to even get in a word edgewise. Corviknight gets roasted by the unnecessary crit on my Flamethrower. I use a Torch Song versus the Magnezone, but he does hold on thanks to his Sturdy ability. He also sets up a light screen, which isn't brilliant for me. However, with the amount of special attack boosts I've had thanks to my torch songs, I think I'll be okay. I use one more just to double check against him and finish him off. We finally have her Tinkerton, who hits me for pretty small damage on a Stone Edge. But unfortunately for it, my special attack is boosted so much where it can't withstand a single flamethrower from my boy Snappy. We then have the return of gym leader Larry. Now, Larry has changed to the flying type and he's now an Elite Four member, so let's see how easy we can get past him. Hopefully as easy as last time. Snappy leads with a torch song against the Tropius, which doesn't quite take it out, but that ends up being a good thing as it decides to set up a sunny day for us. We must have had a bit of a tie on speed because he manages to go first and air slash us the next turn, but it's fine. We can use a torch song and that finishes him off. He then brings out a Pokemon we've seen before, his Staraptor. He hits us pretty heavy with a Brave Bird, but unfortunately for him, I've got 2 special attack boosts and the sun is up. This means my torch song more than enough to take him out in one. His next Pokemon is Altaria, so I decide to switch to a Shadow Ball, and it doesn't quite take it out, allowing him to retaliate with a Dragon Pulse for okay damage. It's low enough though, so all I need to do is use one more torch song. It gives me that little bit of a special attack in case I need it, and takes him out. However, his next Pokemon is Oricorio. Now, Oricorio is faster, so I have no choice but to bring in another Pokemon, and the one I choose to bring in is Toad. This is because he's Rock type and won't take much damage. Toad gets hit pretty hard by a Revelation Dance. I don't quite get this move, but it does a lot. I use a Stealth Rock just to set it up for the rest of the Pokemon. He then uses a Teeter Dance against me. Now, this move confuses me, which isn't brilliant, especially because on the very same turn, I hit myself in confusion. He knocks me to red on the next turn, but thankfully the confusion didn't affect me too much. I can break through it and use a recover to get my health back. Yet again, it hits me insanely hard with the Revelation Dance, and I also hit myself in confusion another time. 2 out of 3, that's such bad luck. The confusion has done me quite dirty. Toad, you can't stay in. I need to bring in Gumball, but the thing is, Revelation Dance hits me for some pretty heavy damage again. Because it hit so hard, I decide the best thing for me to do is to bring out my Blue Eyes. Obviously, he gets hit, but it's not quite a massive amount. He can then Shed Tail and we can bring back in Toad because we know he's going to use Air Slash and Air Slash isn't going to do much damage to Toad, therefore he'll keep his sub up. The Revelation Dance on the next turn does manage to break the sub, but it wasn't good enough. It gave me enough time to get my recover off, knocking me back into the green. I can then start my plan that he ruined last time with his confusion by using a Rock Polish to make myself faster than him. This allows me to use recover on my next turn to get in some pretty good health, but on this turn he does manage to confuse me again. I yet again hit myself in confusion. This is abysmal. This shouldn't be happening. And on top of that, his Revelation Dance knocks me insanely low. I have to chance it though. I do manage to break through and get Assault Cure off, and this puts the Oricorio on a Time Bomb. However, it has knocked me insanely low now, and I can't be stuck in confusion the next turn. Thankfully, that's not a worry as we manage to snap out of it and we can get off a recover. However, this only just knocks me out of being knocked out because he knocks me back into the yellow with his next Revelation Dance. I then use the next turn to recover because he's on extremely low health. Therefore, I'm thinking that the Salt Cure will take him out. He hits me down to just under half health with his Revelation Dance, but he does manage to just tank the Salt Cure. Next turn, I do manage to take him out, but I'm on far less health than I expected to be because of them confusions. His Flamigo then comes out and close combats me, and unfortunately, this is the end for Toad. I can't withstand the damage. Therefore, my Minecraft house is finally going down. You served me so well. You was one of my first encounters, and thank you for everything you've done. After this, I bring in Julian, hoping for a crit on Cross Poison, but I do not get it. And because of that, the trend of the first time using a Pokemon in battle, them going down, carries on. I'm so sorry, Julian. I wish we could have used you more. You are one of my favorite new Pokemon. Blue Eyes is just strong enough to come out, and he's just fast enough to outspeed. That means we can take him down using one move, but at what cost? You avenge your teammates, but they were teammates we shouldn't have lost. This run has been so full of bad luck, and honestly, I feel cheated on these ones. I felt bad for you last time, Larry, but this time I do not. You will never be forgiven. We have to drive forward for their memory, though. We cannot lose. We need to beat this entire game for the memory of everyone we've lost so far. So let's get into the Dragon Hassle fight. Gumball smashes down the Noivern with an Outrage. Flapple then comes out and I'm locked into Outrage, but it takes it down in a Wanna. I then become confused, but honestly, it's fine because I equipped a Persim Berry. Dragalge isn't quite strong enough to be able to survive an Outrage going right into his face. Haxorus, however, is faster and can hit me with a Dragon Claw. I can then hit him with the Outrage though, and the Muscle Band makes it so it's a guaranteed knockout. It comes at the cost of confusion though. I was hoping one of these Outrages would hit 3 times, but the bad luck of the run hits yet again. I cannot risk losing Gumball here. Therefore, I decide I'm gonna bring in Olive Oil. Olive Oil gets hit with a mighty Glaive Rush, which actually nearly takes it out, but it does activate the Seed Sower, so we've got that grass terrain. I protect to see what move he's using, and that move is gonna be Brick Break. I know since he's using Brick Break that I'm safe to switch into Schnappy, because he's a ghost type and it won't affect him. Schnappy does get hit quite heavy, but it's not heavy enough to take him out, and that means he can get off a Yawn. I know he won't survive another attack though, therefore I decide to flick him out for Flick. He manages to hit Flick with a Glaive Rush, and he crits me. I have lost yet another Pokemon due to this bad luck. And do you want to know the worst bit of it? The worst bit of it is Gumball is actually faster. I miscalculated the speeds and Gumball would have outsped. That's right, this death is 100% avoidable. If I'd have brought him in on the Brick Break, we'd have won with no casualties. I'm so sorry, Flick. We did have Dunsparce in our background though. So the background allowed him to evolve into the Dunsparce, therefore we can use him if need be. However, Hassel does at least feel guilty. He's crying his eyes out over killing Flick. Unfortunately though, we are not allowed to mourn. We don't have time for that. We have to take on the champion. I lead with Blue Eyes. Now Blue Eyes is able to use a Shed Tail, and that Shed Tail is going to allow us to bring in Schnappy for free because they use a Dazzling Gleam, which isn't going to break it. The next turn, she sets up a Reflect with her Espethra, but it's fine. I set off a Yawn to put her to sleep. She is then faster than me and uses a Dazzling Gleam. Both the Dazzling Gleams stacked up manage to take down the sub, and I decide to use a Torch Song as she's going to be going to sleep. Since she's asleep, that does mean it's safe for me to use one more to boost my special attack the second time and take her out. Avalugg is quite specially frail, so we take it out in a Wanna. We then get introduced to a King Gambit, but this thing is just as frail to the fire, so it goes down in 1. I switch to Shadow Ball in order to take her Veluza out. Not really much of a champion currently, is she? Go-Go is a grass type. Now, do you really expect me not to one-shot this thing? I'm super effective against it after all. And her last Pokemon is Glamora. However, this thing's pretty tough as she terastallizes it into a rock type, and it knows Earth Power, knocking me for half health. Half is not good enough though, because I can retaliate with a Shadow Ball. Now, my special attack is boosted 5 times, so this thing goes down like a piece of cake. And there we have it. We've beat the champion. Now, normally, you would think this is the end of the game. However, it's not in this instance. Ramona decides that she wants to battle us one last time, and that means we have a final level cap in 65 and we can take her on. You were the first battle I ever did. Now, let's finish this. Let's see who's the best. Both of us are champions. She starts out fist swinging and hits me with a critical drill run. However, I hit right back with a low kick crit of my own and we manage to take the bugger out. She then uses Pawmot. Pawmot uses Double Shock, and this is a move which removes its electricity type once it's been used. This makes my Stomping Tantrum do less damage than I was expecting. She decides then to use an Ice Punch trying to calm me down, but I'm not gonna do that. I'm outraged, therefore I'm gonna take it out in one foul swipe. I'm locked into it against the Dunsparce, so we better say goodbye to Gumball. Or not, because he missed. However, this time I am locked into Outrage 3 times. I don't quite take him out, and I think we all know where this happens. He goes for another Dragon Rush, and this time he is successful. Thank you for all the help, Gumball. You've been a great one. And his killing spree doesn't stop there. Yet again, the first time I use something, it gets crit and taken out. You poor bugger, Jim. You deserved better. However, the Dunsparce, your spree stops right now. We're gonna take you out using Snappy and the Fire Song. Orthworm's steel typing seals its fate as fire's super effective, so it goes down in one. Goodra then manages to do some amazing damage with its Muddy Water. And my Shadow Ball really doesn't do too much to it. Hold on, why is that music playing? I'm not gonna let him die. Instead of letting him die, I switch into my Roadrunner. Oh, that's why I was playing. It wasn't Snappy, it was Roadrunner's time. I'll never forget when you won us that gym with your quick attack, buddy. Luckily, with the speed, Cyclozar can use a Dragon Claw and the Goodra finally stops. Next up is Meowscarada and it uses Play Rough. Now, I thought Shed Tail was priority. It turns out I was just really fast in the past fights. He avenged a fallen comrade, but now he is one of the fallen comrades. Blue Eyes, you're one of the best. You always will be. Snappy, I need you to terrestrialize just this one last time for me. We need to get past this battle. We need to win for our fallen comrades. One last flamethrower. We're terrestrialized. The flamethrower is beastly. We use it, and Meowscarada is down. And that means we have officially beat Nemora for the last time. And that means one last thing. I beat a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Scarlet using only Paldean Pokemon.